Hello everyone to this training session on Dairy Farm Plus, the Canadian Dairy Production Sustainability Assessment Tool. So Dairy Farm Plus was developed by Groupe AGECO with the financial support of Dairy Farmers of Canada, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, the Canadian Dairy Network, and the Canadian Dairy Commission under the Dairy Research Cluster Initiative. So if you go online and type DairyFarmsPlus.ca, you will access the platform. Once you're online, you will have the opportunity to select a language you want to use the platform in, French and English. Then from there, you will have the opportunity to select the province you're operating in as well, in this case, Ontario. Once you click enter, then you access the platform itself. The platform, Dairy Farm Plus, is an innovative and interactive online tool. It was developed to support Canadian dairy farmers in meeting their sustainability goals. So through a user-friendly interface, the tool provides self-assessment questionnaires and a best management practices library with useful information and resources to help you take action in the field of sustainability. The tool is free, but simple and fast registration is required to access all the functions, as you will see in a minute. So, as you can see on the home page right now, the tool itself is built on three main pillars. The first one is about learn and assess, which is contain the self-assessment questionnaire to help you take action and assess your situation based on your practices on farm. There's also a measure and benchmark pillar, which is basically a footprinter that will enable you to measure your carbon footprint and other environmental indicators in order to compare your situation to national and provincial averages. And then the third pillar is a take action section, which is, as the name says, will enable you to develop an action plan in order to take action in regards to sustainability. So to access most of those functionalities, you would have to sign in. The sign in section is at the top right of the platform there. If you don't have any account, you can sign up. To sign up, you have to determine whether you're a dairy producer or not. If you are, you will be invited to indicate your province you're operating in, name and last name, email address to confirm your email as well, define your own password. Then you will also have to add your producer number, and this number is specific to your province, so you will have to enter it at that point. Once this is done, you click on next, and then you will go back to the sign in section where you will be able to sign in and access all the functionalities. So once you're online, you can actually navigate across the whole platform and access all the those three pillars. But what we'll start looking at is actually the BMP Library. This BMP Library lists and describes all the different best management practices that are part of this platform. So it's the backbone section with all the content and the references you will access by completing the other self-assessment questionnaires we'll see in a minute. So here you have this library actually entails 110 different BMPs or practices. They are all clustered under different teams or different sections. So in this case, as you see at the top of the page, we have different teams going from nutrient management to manure storage to soil management, and they are all related to one of the seven dimensions that are part of this platform. So all these BMPs can be filtered by different functionalities at that point. So first of all, by the priority level. So all those 110 BMPs have been identified whether they are high priority or not, and the priority level has been established by reference to the ProAction initiative. You can also filter all those BMPs according to the effort needed to implement them. So if you click on easy to implement, you will have all the practices that are considered easier to implement, that won't require much time or money to implement on your farm. There's also the possibility to filter by the benefits related to the adoption of those practices. In this case, there are 8 different types of benefits, going from profitability, business risk, biodiversity, climate change, soil health, water quality, animal welfare, good neighborliness, workers' well-being, and farmers' well-being. So because one specific BMP can have different impact in the end, so by selecting a specific or a set of those benefits, you will again be able to filter and see which of those BMPs relate to those benefits. You can also select and filter those BMPs based on the different teams they're referring to. As we said, the platform is built on 7 main topics. on top of which there are also references to the EFP in Quebec. So in this case, you will be able to filter according to the environmental stewardships and more specifically to the field operations. Then environmental stewardship and with a specific regard on farm activities. Then farm management, economic performance, relation with local communities, workers' well-being, and cattle management, which are all the main sections the platform is built on. So each time you click on a BMP, you will see a fact sheet providing you with a detailed description of the BMP, the potential benefits, and the useful reference for you. So if you click on that, there is a pop-up window that just appears, and then in this case, you have the name of the BMP. So I mean, so in this case, the low trajectory broadcast equipment, and then a short description of what it is. In this case, we see this as a priority practice, and the specific benefit coming from the potential benefits related to this particular practice. If you click on reference, you will have access to a few links. Most of them are clickable, where you can actually access more information on this practice and why it is relevant to your operation. So, and if you have this information as you scroll down the page and access all this information, as you can see here, so you can actually access all that. So once we have seen how the library works, we can go back on the home page. Well, you will go back to the main three pillars and main functionalities of this platform. So if we start with the Learn and Access section of the platform, which is related to the BMP's library we just saw. Once you click on this section, then you will scroll down on the page and access this section. As I mentioned a minute ago, the BMPs and the questionnaire are clustered under 7 different sections, going from environmental stewardship, field operations, or on-farm activities, going down to farm management, economic performance, relations with local communities, workers' well-being, and the last one, cattle management. So you can click on any of those sections depending on your interest and what you want to start with. As you mouse over on each of those pictures, you see a short description of what this section is about and the type of information you will access, or the type of information you will have access to once you click on it. So if we click on this one, for instance, then you will access a different page. And once you scroll down on this page, then you will have access to the different teams that are related to that dimension. In this case, we're referring to field operations. So the related teams and criteria are soil management, nutrient management, pest management, and manure storage management. Once you click on any of those these sections, then again you will have access to the same information we saw when we were in the BMP's library. First of all, a short description of what soil management is and why it is important, and then the related BMP, so the related practices. In this case, crop rotation, soil compaction, soil erosion, organic matter, and TH method. All of them, the content you see here is actually for each of those tabs is actually really similar to the one we saw in the BMP library, and the user can click on any of them and access this information and the same tags that we saw earlier in terms of the potential benefits whenever the practice is a priority one and if it's easy to implement or not. This content is to inform users and farmers on what are the types of practices they can implement in order to improve their overall sustainability performance for each of those criteria. So the same is available for all of them. So if we scroll up again and go back on the home page, then we can go back on the Learn and Access section and see how we can move from the learn part when you access information to the self-assessment section when you can actually complete a self-assessment questionnaire. So we can start with the another section, for instance. Click on it, and then you will have the opportunity to complete your questionnaire. So we'll start with a section that is already still empty. In this case, it's already some question has already been completed. So if we start, for instance, with the economic performance one, When we go in this section, you can start your own self-assessment questionnaire. Of course, as you can see at the bottom, there is still information related to that section as we saw. Once you click on the Start Self-Assessment Questionnaire, there's again a pop-up window that appears. These boxes are meant to provide you with complementary information on what to expect with the following section. And then once you read it, you can click I got it and then access the page itself. So the way the questionnaires are designed, it's pretty much the same template for all of those sections. First of all, we start with context-based questions. So we want to know if a farmer is dealing with a particular situation. In this case, if they purchase feed or ingredients to produce feed themselves or not. So these questions are not part of the assessment, but they will trigger some of the questions depending on their situation. Another example, if a farmer is hiring on-farm labor or actually non-family related neighbors, and the answer to that question will have have an impact on the types of questions asked to farmers afterwards. So in this case, we'll say yes, I do purchase feed and ingredients to produce my own feed on my farm. So you can click and move on, and then access the questions themselves, where you can on which is based the assessment. As you can see, all the questions are practice-based, and most of them are whether yes, no, or a checklist format. So they are meant to be easy to answer, and they don't require you to have access to any preliminary information or to gather documents on your farm. So you should know this information on top of your head for most of those questions. So the questions in this case are. So you can read an example there. So do you monitor your cost of production for all activities and livestock activities, all your crops and livestock activities? And then you can easily answer one or the other. And then you can continue scrolling down and then complete your questionnaire and move on. In this case, once this is, so you will be asked to complete the questionnaire before you move to the other section. So an example of that, we can go back in a section, which is go on the home page, and then go back to the Learn and Assess section and go and see a completed questionnaire, how it looks like once you completed your assessment. So once this is done, you actually access your scores and your results. So after you completed the questionnaire, you will get to that page. If you scroll down, this is the information you will have access to. First, your result. Your result is that the percentage of practices that are implemented in comparison to all those that were listed in the questionnaire. So 48% in this case means that half of the questions you answer that you have implemented the practices listed in regards to half of the questions that were asked in this specific question section. Then this 48% can be compared to the score, the average at the Canadian or provincial level. So of course these results here are fake, just for the sake of example, and then you can compare your performance to the one of your colleagues, whether at the national or provincial level. If you continue scrolling down, then you will have the detail of that of your results. So here in this case, we're in the section on environmental stewardship on farm activities. So of course the teams that you see here are the same ones that were listed in the Learn section we saw earlier. So if you click on one of these, then you will have the detailed results for your of your practices for that specific team. So what you see here is actually the BMP, the practice that is recommended related to all those specific teams. So in this case, systematically store hazardous farm waste in a location container specifically designed for this purpose. So underneath, you will see if the practice is considered as a priority and if it's considered to be easy to implement. In this case, we see that the practice was not adopted by the user. So I said basically while I was answering the questionnaire that that I do not systematically store farm waste on my operation. So, but you do still also see the same comparison at the provincial or national level. So you can see that whether if you do it or not, so you can compare and see that in this case, which is again an example, a quarter of farmers are actually doing it. So you're among, in this case, I'm part of the 75% of farmers who are not storing systematically hazardous farm waste in a location container designed for this purpose. So this automatically, as you can see, there is a button on the top right where it tells you that if a practice is considered a priority and you're not implementing it, as it is the case right now, it was automatically added to my action plan, and we'll see how it works in a minute. So the tool itself will automatically populate your action plan based on the results of your assessment. Of course, this is what the tool recommends to add this to the action plan in order for you to adapt this practice in the future. But of course, you may decide that this is not something you want to be part of your action plan in the short term, so you can unclick the practice and remove it from your action plan manually. So the same information is available if you scroll down, so you will have access to the detail of your answers. And there is always an opportunity for you to edit the answers and go back to the questionnaire if you realize at that point that you said you were or not adopting a practice and it's not the case. So there's also an opportunity for you to edit the questionnaire and update your scorecard. So if we go back at the top, then this is where you can move down the road and move further towards the realization of your action plan or see your results. So the opportunity of printing in a PDF your result give you, of course, this ability to share those results and discuss them with your partners, with your workers, or any other stakeholders you're operating with, and that may be interested in those results. But if we want to go beyond just the picture of your operation, but also take action in regards of that activities, then you can click on the take action and go to my action plan section. There again, there is a pop-up window telling you of what to expect in this section and what does it mean. So once you read it, you can click I got it and then access my action plan section. So if you scroll down, what you will see, it's actually a template that is pretty similar to the BMP library we just saw. The difference in this case is that the BMP that are part of the action plan, so those that were automatically populated by answering the self-assessment questionnaires, are marked with a check mark here, a green line, a green one. So in this case, the one with a green check here are those that were whether manually or automatically selected. But at that point, you still have the opportunity to customize and to edit and adapt your action plan depending on what you want to do. But you will still have the opportunity, the tool gives you the opportunity to automatically populate it based on your answers. Once this is done, you can actually check and, not check, but click on the generate my action plan in this case, and this will this will lead to the creation of editable PDF document. So all the practices that were listed in your action plan will be printed in this PDF here. So you will see, for instance, in this case, triple rinse or pressure rinse empty containers prior to disposal in case of pesticides, for example. And then you will have the opportunity to edit the specific actions you want to undertake, the starting date, the expected completion date, and any other comments such as who should actually take care of that action, or if there's a particular thing you want to mention there in this document. So in this case, you see an example here that was completed. So this is all editable sections there, so you can complete and write whatever you want. So once this is complete, we can go back to the home page and go, as we've seen, to the last section that we haven't looked at yet, which is the measure and benchmark section. As you can see, the take action section is also available on the home page, so you can access this by going through the self-assessment section, but it's also something you can go right into by clicking there in the home page and customize your own action plan based on the BMP library as we just saw. But now let's move to the measure and benchmark section, which is an additional feature of that platform. And this section is actually the footprinter, where you can measure your carbon footprint and other environmental indicators. So when you select this module, so as I said, you can measure your environmental footprint and compare it to provincial and national averages. And by estimating your dairy farm's environmental footprint, then you can establish a baseline for monitoring and assessing your sustainability performance year to year. So as we can see in a moment, this is also a tool that enables you to deal with different scenarios and see how you can improve your situation over time. So again, a pop-up window telling you what to expect in this section, and again, once you read it, you can click I got it. So as you can see here, the tool is, in this case, it's more quantitative information is needed to measure your footprint, because we're now talking about quantitative measures rather than just practice-based ones. But still, the tool has been designed in such a way that we minimize the amount of quantitative data needed to get your own result. So there's those default value already provided based on provincial and national averages that you can, of course, edit. And among those data that you may want to edit, there are those that are actually critical, so those that are really important and significant in your footprint, but also other additional question and optional questions you may want to edit if you have access to this information. So the platform works, and there are 6 different modules you can populate and edit to measure your footprint. So if you go on the left, you will have access to all of them. So first of all, information on the farm and milk produced on your farm, the livestock operation, the ration used to feed your animal, feed production itself, manure management, and infrastructure, energy, and water. So this, if you click on any of these, you will see that there are a few questions being asked. And these, like I mentioned, is information that should be pretty much readily available based on your operation. So once let's say we go back on the main section, then as you will see, the footprint there is measured based on this information. So if you edit any of that or any of those numbers, so let's say I'm planning to reduce the volume of milk produced this year, and I click on save, so you will have the footprinter measuring real-time the difference on your footprint. So in this case, you see by reducing the amount of milk produced without changing any other indicators in terms of the ration use, anything, and other type of information, there will of course be an impact on your footprint by increasing it because you're producing less milk using the same amount of inputs. But that being said, this is an example of what you can edit and see real-time the impact on your footprint. So the carbon footprint is, of course, only one of the different indicators that you will the tool provides you with. So, of course, here the footprint itself. Then you can also compare to your own operation, like we said, and then having an Ontario, provincial, and national average, and see where you stand against these two numbers. But there's also other indicators, including water withdrawal, land use, and other set of KPIs, so key performance indicators on your operation, going from, let's say, energy, feed production, ration. And these numbers are actually more there, again, for the sake of comparison against maybe provincial and national average, but for your own sake as well, to monitor and track over time and see how you can improve your overall operation. If we go back on the carbon footprint, you will also see that it's possible to present the results using different functional units. So in this case, we are presenting the footprint based on 1 kilogram of milk. But if you click here, then you have access you can actually express those, present those same results based on different units. So for instance, the 1 dairy cow, an hectare of land, or at the farm level as a whole. Okay, so these are different ways you can use to express results depending on what you want to communicate and what you want to work on. These here in real time is actually just a summary result. If you want to see the full result, you click at the bottom there, and then you have access to much more information, again in a really user-friendly way, where you can see again for the same set of indicators a vast array of different information. So again, always in a comparative spirit, so you can again see the results at the national and provincial level, and then see how a breakdown of that footprint, in this case comparing what is related to on-farm activities compared to what is actually related to off-farm activities or farm inputs, and then by clicking there, having a more detailed result of where it's coming from. So for instance, in the case of feed, manure management, and access to all that. So to understand better how you can maybe work on what you can actually work to improve in a more significant way your overall footprint of your operation. So if we go back on the home page, then you have, in a nutshell, most of the functionalities of this platform. Maybe the last one we want to see is actually, if you go actually down the page, you will see that it's possible using DairyFarm Plus to create actually different scenarios. So you have your main project, the way we just saw, so you can complete your self-assessment questionnaires, have access to your scorecard, then print and prepare and print out an action plan, and then you can also measure your own footprint. But depending on if you want to create different scenarios or track your performance over time, then you can create different scenarios, and like we said here, new projects. So that way you can have a 2017 project, 2018 project, or different tests if you want, for instance, to compare the implementation or introduction of a new technology that may reduce your footprint over time. So these are all examples of things you can do by creating different projects. So if you go back up on the home page, this is where you have the overall picture of different functionalities of what DairyFarm Plus provide to dairy farmers in Canada. So like we said, there's a learn and assess section which is practice-based. You can access to not only resources on what practices you may want to implement to reduce your footprint over time. Then there's a scorecard when you can actually see where you stand, not only based on your own answers, but compared to your colleagues operating in the same province or at the national level. Then the opportunity to develop your own action plan that you may that is automatically populated based on your answers, but you can also populate based on all your own priorities. And then the footprinter, so the measure and benchmark, that, as we just saw, will enable you to have facts and figures related to your own operations on the different environmental indicators you can compare and track over time. So if you have any additional comments or questions, you're most welcome to complete the satisfaction survey by clicking on the following link. We'll be most pleased to have your feedback in order to improve the tool over time and make sure that DairyFarm Plus will meet the expectations of dairy farmers in Canada in the future. So to complete, so DairyFarm Plus was developed by Groupe Ageco with the financial support of Dairy Farmers of Canada, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, the Canadian Dairy Network, and the Canadian Dairy Commission under the Dairy Research Cluster Initiative. So thank you very much for your attention, and we hope that you will enjoy DairyFarm Plus in the future. Have a good day.